Hello and welcome, I am Gary and Reaver and this is another Arknights tier list. I've already done, I believe, 3 guards, defenders and snipers, so you can check those out, linked in the description, and this is specialists. Thank you for requesting it and let me know which class you'd like to see next. Just a couple of notes about how this tier list will work. This is my personal opinions based on my personal thoughts about these characters. Stuff like their design, their backstory, maybe their outfits, and maybe how they play. It varies. Where they get placed in this list is quite easy. C is the neutral, that's either I don't have particularly strong opinions one way or another, or the good that they have outweighs the bad, or vice versa. B and D is if I like or dislike them, A and E is if I really like or really dislike them, and S are my favourite of the class. So if we're all clear that this is a non-meta tier list, I would love to hear your thoughts on where I put things in the comments. Where would you put them? Would you put them differently? And which ones are your favourites? Please let me know. Starting off with Ethan. I sometimes do use him. He's very good for slowing things down because I believe his skills slow and bind and stuff. I also like how most of the ambushes have like a lore or a race reason for why they're not targeted in melee. And his obviously that he's a chameleon. Waifu. I'm going to put her at C. I do tend to use executors. I'm stuck in the mindset of the operator, executor. I do tend to use executors a fair bit, but I honestly forgot that she was one of them. I'm not usually a fan of the mostly animal with some human traits Arknights designs. There are some exceptions, and I guess Waifu's one of them. I think her design's okay. Snowsant also at C. She has some interesting stuff in her backstory and her lore, and some of her outfits are alright, but I don't tend to use push or pull, like the hooks or the push or pull. So I'm pretty neutral on her. Ark. He is probably my least favourite specialist archetype, and the only reason he's not in E, because I don't like his character, is that he always reminds me of, God, this is going to be such a niche reference, he always reminds me of like a mix between 2 characters from The Lion King 2. These two. Like the weird scraggly male lion and the tough female lion, the lioness. Every time I see him, that's all I see, and I don't know why really. Phantom. He is another executor, but he's not one that I use. I tend to stick to like 3 really that I really rely on. But Phantom's really cool. I'm going to stick him in A. He has some fantastic design work going on with like the Plague Doctor look and the Blood Diamond look. They're both fantastic. He also has some interesting stuff in the lore, like spoiler alert, he's one of the bosses of Phantom and Crimson, and it's a nice, I don't want to say twist because I don't remember if it's a twist or not, but it's a nice twist on the character. Thermex. Robots normally instantly go into E, but I do sometimes use Thermex. Not often, and it's not very good, but enough to bump it up from E, I guess. Weedy. As I said, I don't tend to use the push and pulls. I kind of like her design and what she's got going on, so I'll put her at B, but I don't tend to use them. J, he is an unusual one. I have rather mixed feelings on him, which land him in C just overall, because I use him. I do use him in like the roguelike modes. With his healing skill, he's actually very good at standing against rather tough enemies, basically, on his own. And because he can self-heal when he's attacking, it means he's good in those levels where there's constant damage as long as he's able to attack. But I really don't like his archetype, not as much as I dislike Axe, the geek archetype, which is a terrible name, by the way. Most of them are terrible names, as I've said before. But in addition, one of Jay's outfits is one of the goofiest looking bits of art in the entirety of the game. Robin, by comparison, is probably my second favourite specialist archetype, the Trap Master. I'm going to stick her up in B. I don't use her as much as I use a couple of the other Trap Masters, but I like her aesthetic. I think she's a raccoon, And I like her, like, I'm saying like a lot. I think that her sort of stoic blankness is appealing. Kafka, one of the executors that I don't often use, I do sometimes, but she's got a weird attack pattern, like attack range, which sort of puts me off using her the way I use most executors, and I probably could learn to use her, but I don't use specialists often, so I like to use the ones that I know how to use, or at least understand. But despite that, I like her design. Basically all of her outfits are great, and hers is one of the few like joke weapons that I am okay with, the giant scissors on a Christmas outfit. Mr. Nothing, the 5-star version of Jay's archetype. I have not used him. I think his design, I can't honestly decide if I think his design is cool or not. I think it would be cool if he looked less smug about it. And he might not be smug about the way he looks, but it's just that's the vibe I get. Frost is one of the 2 trap masters that I do use. And back when I played Rainbow Six Siege, Frost was my second favourite operator in the entire game. And while I was really on the fence about Rainbow Six doing a collaboration with Arknights, Frost is probably she is definitely my favourite part about the first collaboration. Unlike some of the others, I think she definitely translated well to the Arknight style, but the only real issue I have with her, and certainly the other ones from at least the first batch, I haven't really noticed it with Ayla in the second batch, but she has incredibly boring quotes. Like all of her quotes, and the same with all of the Rainbow Six operators from the first batch, certainly, they're just so dull with no personality whatsoever. And I don't know if this was Ubisoft being like, oh no, we can't let them say interesting things in this game about human-animal hybrids and stuff fighting terrorist organizations in a magic doom rock world. No, they must be boring and tactical. I don't know, but irked me. Gladia, one of the Abyssal Hunters, which automatically brings her up to a B, but is probably the most boring of them. Skadi and Spectre have a lot going on that I really like. The male one, Ulipanus? I don't have him. I don't remember his name. He has a really cool design. Gladia is sort of, yeah, I think her design isn't great, and I don't think her outfits are particularly special either. I know she is powerful, but I don't, as I said, I don't use push or pull ones, so I just haven't used her. Benna, I'm sticking in D, because I don't really like her design. I'm not the biggest fan of the doll substitute archetype. To be honest, I barely tolerate that sort of thing with Mule Cease and her water generation. I don't like a deployable that can get knocked out and sort of be gone for a bit and not block. It just doesn't work for me. Jumping to the other end, Fita, sort of a film star panda who has some interesting looks. Another pusher, so I don't really use. Like, if I am going to use any pusher, it'll be Shaw, just because, like, I've leveled Shaw. Speaking of which, Shaw, I'm going to put up a B, because if I'm going to use a pusher, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I already said that, but yeah. I also find it fun that her dialogue is written in a way to emphasize how quickly she talks. That's just cool. Manticore. Ooh, she is probably my second most used ambusher. I'm going to put her up at A, but a very, very high A, almost S. She's adorable. She has a really tragic sort of story. Her outfits are pretty cool. She's got rather terrible posture, but her design is just great. I think her story is something like she is basically invisible to almost everybody. They just don't see her, so she just feels incredibly lonely all the time. I would recommend putting her as like your assistant and seeing some of the quotes. Heartbreaking. Cliffheart, I'm a little mixed on. I kind of like her story, and I think she is clever. Like, she wears a thing around her thigh. It's like a band of sort of diamonds. But she wears it to conceal that under, because they're like, I think they're sort of like hollow spike things, but she wears it there to conceal the fact that she has originium crystals on her skin. And it's just a way for her to just like cleverly hide it. I also think a couple of her outfits are really nice, but her default art is just a bit, I don't know, a little bit uncanny. Something's a bit off with it. So I'm going to put her at C. Red. Although you do get gravel before red most of the time, I see red as the quintessential executor. She's going up at A. She has a really interesting story. I rather like the sort of one ear out, one ear in design, and her role in the community of obsessed with fluffy tails is adorable. These 4 are not in global, so I will not be ranking them at all. Rope. She is a Quartus, and I like that, but I don't like her personality, I don't think. Her design also doesn't really work for me. Gravel. One of the other executors that I use quite a bit because she's cheap. She has that great shield, which means you can just drop her into block something for a bit, which most of the executors can't do. So for that, she goes up to B. This guy, he is very, very new. He came out like a week ago at the time of making, and I keep having to remind myself that Tin Man is actually his name. It feels like a slang name that the community gave him, but his design is pretty stellar, so I'm putting him a B for that. Ascalon, ooh, where do I put her? Because I was really, really looking forward to her release. I saw some fan art and it's like, who's that? I don't recognise that character, so I asked the people in the Garen Reaver community, which is Discord, linked in the description of the YouTube video. You should definitely join if you're a fan of Arknights. And they were like, oh yeah, that's Ascalon, and they told me a bit about her story. And I was just, it's like, she is such a cool design. She is a really interesting story. I can't wait for her. But I was a bit disappointed. Like, I was hearing that she was really good, and she's okay, but she's not as knockout powerful as, like, I thought she'd be. And I don't love the art they did for her. So, overall, I'm going to put her at a B. I don't use her because I just haven't got on as well with her as I thought I would. And then the next Rainbow Six one, Ayla, who is probably my 3rd favourite Siege character in the entirety of Siege, this is. My favourite one, Hibana, is not actually in Arknights yet, which, I'd love for Hibana to be in the next collaboration. But she is really good. Like, she's very good in I don't know, it feels misbalanced kind of way. Which is nice if I just want a nuke button. I'm going to put her at A. I'm going to put her in S, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not putting her in S because she's really powerful. She is powerful, but I really like her as a character. Her pronunciation of her name, this is completely unconnected to Arknights, is what I named my first ever D&D character, Ayla, obviously, who I am very, very fond of, and that's sort of in reference to her. Iana. She was added to Siege after I stopped playing, I think. Or I think she was added just around the time I stopped playing, so I have no sort of nostalgic feelings about her. I'm just going to stick her in C. Verdant. I kind of wish his design was a bit better. Like, I think is just a couple of bits that are off with his design, because I really like the sort of the vibrant watermelon coloured hair. That's just a nice touch. But I don't know, something is slightly off with it, so I'm going to put him in D, but he could have been a C. Almond. I don't know much about her. Her design is okay, but the reason she's in a B is because she's quite useful in the base, I think. Swire Altar, Swire the Elegant Wit, which of all of the altars in the entire game sounds like she wrote the name herself. I'm not a big fan of Swire, but I really don't know anything at all about. I don't even think I have this altar, so I'm just going to stick her in C. Spuria, she's a Sancta, which is cool, but she's also the geek archetype, which is not cool. I like the fact that her wings are sort of down, which is like a somewhat different design from most of the ones we've seen up to that point, and I always like expanding on Sancta lore. She's got a slightly pink halo, which is cool. I think it evens out at C. Jumping up to the other end, Mizuki. He has a remarkable amount of play in the community and in merchandise especially. He was one of the main characters of my favourite roguelike mode in the game, and I am a fan of Nami as an artist. I'm going to put him up at A. I've only recently got him, so I've not tried him out yet. Lee, presumably he's the 6-star version of the J and Mr. Nothing archetype, the merchant. I haven't tried him. I don't know. His design is sort of, yeah, it's okay. It's very much like the royal family of Lungmen, which I've never loved their designs. They're sort of colourful and they've got a lot going on, but there's just, I don't know, something that didn't quite work for me. If I recall correctly, there's like an animated series like Lee's Detective Agency, basically around him and his sort of allies. And maybe I should check that out and maybe that would make me like him more, but for now, see. Enforcer. By no means the most boring Sancta in the game, that would definitely be Insider. I don't really have much of an attachment to Enforcer. His design is alright, it looks kind of nice, but yeah, he's just nothing beyond that anyway. Kazimaru is an example of subtle personality in art. Basically all of her art is pretty good, and in particular there's the sort of haunted castle outfit where she's dressed like a maid, but she's a maid who's stealing a big gem under her tray. And it's just a really nice detail that tells you a lot about her personality, and I approve of that, so B. Alright, we're coming to the last few. I will just quickly move Dorothy. She's in C. I got her literally days ago, and I like her massive ears, and I like that she's one of the bosses of one of the events, but I don't really know anything about her. So, we have these four. One of these doesn't quite fit with the other, so I will do them first. Kirara. I left her till last because I'm really, really fond of her. Like, right from the moment I saw her, it's like, her. She's amazing. The pastel blues and pinks, the tentacles and sort of... I know they're not anchors that she's holding, but they look a bit like anchors, and tentacles and anchors is an aesthetic that just really works. Like, don't read into that, it's just that it looks really cool. And she's a gamer, like, her outfit where she's, like, playing a VR game is great art. It's also the only time we actually see her happy, because her E1 and E2 art is just sort of, she looks neutral at best. The only real issue I have with Kirara is that she's not the deepest character, at least in the dialogue. I think she has some more interesting things in her backstory. She's got like a backstory with like Utaji and some and stuff, but a lot of her dialogue is just fairly standard, oh, I'm a gamer stuff, which could be better. Spectre the Unchained. She is probably, to me, the more interesting Spectre. She's the altar, obviously, and I'm going to put her up at A. Her, like, double person outfit is fantastic, and I love that she's basically a shark nun pirate, which is just a lot of things to combine, but it weirdly works for her. And I like how in the community she's basically considered to flirt with everyone. And that leaves just Texalta and Yatalta? Yato anyway. I will go with Yato first. I hate her design. Similar to the Noir Corn Monster Hunter collaboration outfit, or not outfit, just altar, wasn't it? I really, really don't like the look of it. Maybe it is just straight ripped from Monster Hunter, I don't know, I've not played it, but she is useful, don't get me wrong, and for that reason she's spared E and goes up into D, because she is really useful. She is another executor that I do use, but her design is just awful to me. And that leaves Texalta, Texas the Omatosa. Would it surprise you if I put her in E? Yes, almost certainly, but she's going in S. She's fantastic. It's a really cool design. Like, I like Texas's normal outfits and stuff, but like Texalta, just her look is exquisite. She is an incredibly useful executor, dropping in, silencing, doing massive amounts of damage and then buggering off again. It all works. And that is my specialist tier list. For once we have nothing in E, which sort of surprises me, but I guess I don't have strong enough feelings about a lot of these. But yes, please let me know what you think. Remember, this was not a meta tier list, this was a personal tier list, so bearing that in mind, let me know where you would put yours. But check out my other Arknights stuff, check out my other tier lists, and again, let me know in the comments which you'd like to see me do next. I've done Sniper, Defender, and Guard, and with this one, that leaves 4 left. Thank you for watching, be nice in the comments, and I will catch you later.